The month we filmed our Dragon's Den episode, we did 9,000 pounds. A little over 3 years later, we're now doing over 4 million pounds a month.
That is insane.
Yeah.
That's Marisa Poster, founder of PerfectTed, the fastest growing matcha brand in Europe. In this episode, she reveals how to start a global brand from your kitchen table.
People buy from people. They buy from stories. I think we've had really interesting tactics that I've never really spoken about before. So
what really happens on Dragon's Den?
You're actually not allowed to go on the show if you've ever had contact with the dragons before.
Interesting.
We signed the deal with Steven, I think it was 10 minutes before our segment aired.
Really?
I lost more hair in the year that we were negotiating a deal than I've ever lost in my life.
How to make a product that actually sells?
We just did our largest production run. I think it was like 1 million cans just in 1 week.
That's insane.
We barely spend a penny on digital marketing. We spend like less than 1% of our turnover on marketing.
Wow. What's the secret to getting in every supermarket?
So this is a fun one.
This is a brand building masterclass. I really hope you enjoy it. Subscribe if you do, and let's dive in. Marisa, thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks so much for having me, Callum.
A lot of people in this audience will be listening to someone like you who's built this incredible brand. It's the fastest growing matcha brand in Europe. It's in all of the supermarkets here. It's kind of like taken the UK by storm. And I think they'll be sat at home and they might have an idea in their head for a product or a brand, or they might already be building one. So I'd love to use this podcast as a bit of a masterclass for them.
Absolutely. Where do you want to start?
Let's start at the beginning with the idea. So what was the initial idea for this product?
Back in 2016, that is when matcha quite honestly changed my life. So I was studying at university. I was a Red Bull addict, truthfully. Double shots of espressos were my grind, and I just couldn't really function. And I couldn't notice it myself, but I was crashing all the time. And as someone who has anxiety and ADHD, the caffeine I was getting from all the coffee and energy drinks just weren't working for me. A friend who had traveled to Japan learned about matcha, and she actually said that monks had used it like 800 years ago to help give them peak energy and focus before long periods of meditation. And I was kind of like, okay, if it worked for them, maybe it'll work for me, and gave it a try. Needless to say, it worked for me incredibly well, to the point where I made a switch immediately, stopped drinking all coffee and energy drinks, and then kind of became a matcha evangelist and convinced my boyfriend at the time, Levi, who's now my husband, and my co-founder, as well as my best friend in college, my co-founder, Teddy, to switch as well. They were D1 athletes at the University of Pennsylvania, which is where we met. And they found that it actually really helped with their sports. They felt like they could achieve like better performance results. I just felt amazing, long-lasting energy, no jitters. I never had those crashes. Do you drink coffee? Or?
Yeah, I drink coffee, yeah.
Okay. And do you ever get the jitters or shakes?
I don't get I definitely crash.
Okay.
Yeah, crash.
The reason why matcha is so great is because of an amino acid in it called L-theanine. And it essentially negates all of the negative stimulatory effects of caffeine.
Yeah.
So it gives you that smooth release. It also prolongs the release of caffeine through your bloodstream.
Yeah.
So you don't get those jitters or crashes. But anyways, it became my obsession, needless to say. And if you fast forward a few years to 2020, I was living in New York City. It was the pandemic, of course, and I was working in real estate finance. I wanted to move to London. I was in a long distance relationship. New York wasn't what it was, and I made the jump. I moved here in the middle of the pandemic, and upon arrival, I was kind of like, where is the matcha? I brought my own from New York and ran out pretty quickly. We'd walk around to cafes. I couldn't find it anywhere. And I was really surprised by how challenging it was to find matcha anywhere. And if a place served matcha, it was shit. It was shit quality. So within 45 days of moving to the UK, we incorporated our business.
So that's kind of like step one in this journey. It's something you're like excited about, passionate about, and then there's a need.
It's really interesting. I was just with the founder of By Women Built, which is a great community of businesses that are founded by women. And she said that of the 2,500 companies that are listed within By Women Built, 95% of them were created as a result of a problem that the founder had. So really, I think actually the best ideas come from solving your own problem or solving the problem of someone close to you.
Yeah.
So I know there are brands like clean homeware brands that have been founded because their child has allergies and things like that. And I think when you have such an emotional connection to the problem that you're solving and you're your own customer, that is when you can create a product that is truly disruptive and innovative, because you know what you're looking for. And the odds are that if you have a problem, you're not special.
Yeah.
It's very likely that many other people have that same problem. My issue was that I couldn't find a source of caffeine in the UK because there was no matcha anywhere that actually was kind to my brain, that was working with my neurodivergent conditions. Like, I could not find a thing. And that's when, after, of course, market research, we were like, okay, well, if no one else is doing it, we might as well do it.
Yeah. Very cool.
And that's when you find a gap.
And then this is what the product looks like right now, which is super cool. And there's a whole range. And I think we'll come on to this and we'll do a deep dive on the packaging and how you design it and all the rest of it, and the Dragon's Den journey and all the rest of it later on.
But that's not what we were meant to launch with.
No, yeah. Let's start with what was the first iteration of this? Like, how does it come to be like a product?
So 45 days into living in the UK, we incorporate the business and we say, well, how am I drinking matcha right now? What's like the typical way of preparing it in my household? And that was a matcha latte with oat milk usually, or maybe almond milk if I wasn't, feeling like I needed so many calories or something like that. And we decided, okay, that makes the most sense in terms of the way someone would try it. So we immediately looked on Google because ChatGPT wasn't around at the time. Yeah. And we Googled, how do you start a drinks company? Obviously, we didn't yield many great results, but we did know that the logical next step would be to receive expert advice. And we reached out to these beverage developers, really competent. They worked with a lot of other brands that we admired. And we basically said, hey, we want to make a matcha latte in a can. Is that possible? So we went out and, did trials, and lo and behold, very challenging to put matcha in a can or a matcha latte for many reasons. Oat milk is challenging to work with in a lot of different canning facilities because it's an allergen, yada, yada, yada. We spend several months coming up with a fantastic recipe, really clean ingredients. We were actually going to put it in a Tetra Pak, which is what Vita Coco is in. And about, I don't know, a month before we wanted to start production, I think this was around the time that we launched on Kickstarter, which was April 2021. We received word from the manufacturer that they actually had to prioritize their largest customer, which is the largest oat milk brand in the UK.
Yeah, I can guess who that is.
Yeah. And that was really disappointing. So we had pre-sold 10,000 pounds worth of this product, right? And
on Kickstarter
in April 2021.
That's insane. 10,000.
We set our funding goal as 10,000. We hit it in 23 hours.
Wow. Which
was awesome. And for us, that was so much validation that there was a need for this product. Yeah. Other people felt the same as I did. And they clearly wanted to see it on shelf in their local. So we kind of were like, what do we do?
How do you get that result on Kickstarter? Is it like you literally post it on there and then it takes care of the rest? Or do you have to drive interest to it? Because it's a platform where you can basically log on and I can post, I'm launching this product, pledge your support. And then if you hit your target, you make it, right?
Absolutely. So the idea is that instead of giving away equity in your business via crowdfunding, you can raise pre-sales and actually, one, gauge interest, and two, use the pre-sales to actually fund the development of the product.
Got it.
For us, that was really, that was the goal, really, because it's expensive to produce cans.
Yeah.
So we knew that to have the best result, you need to have a really great piece of content to put on the project page. And we had about a budget of £2,000 to create a kick-ass video and put a little bit of spend behind it and get props and really invest in the script that we wrote. We filmed it in Florida. And looking back, it's hilarious. I'll send you the video later. I think you'd appreciate it.
We'll link it in the show notes for sure.
It's funny because at the time, I remember I wasn't really comfortable talking about my ADHD and anxiety because I thought that it'd actually be seen as a negative and make me look less credible as a founder. Unfortunately, that's how I felt. And I'm so glad I've come full circle with that. But we lent more heavily into the benefits of matcha versus coffee, but it was still a kick-ass video. I'm really proud of it. And I think because it was so fun to watch and people really enjoyed watching the three of us and our dynamic, people got behind it. And then we pre-sold 10K worth of this product that we could not develop.
Yeah.
So we're like, all right, what do you do? And obviously, you either quit or you pivot. So we pivoted because there was no other option.
Yeah.
I didn't have a job. Luckily, Teddy and Levi at the time both had jobs. Actually, Teddy had just quit working as a consultant, funny enough. So he didn't have a job. However, he did have a plan B. And I can speak about that because that was interesting for him. But he was actually meant to go to Harvard Law School.
Okay.
And he eventually deferred. But that was his plan B. So if things didn't work out, he was going to go to Harvard. I mean, doesn't sound so bad. Elwood's life.
Yeah.
What can go wrong with that? But like for me, I was like, no, we got to make this work. Pivoted immediately to what we felt like was the most natural extension. And the reason why I have had matcha in my life for so long is because I use it as an alternate energy source. So we thought it makes sense to put it into a context that people are already familiar with, hence an energy drink.
Yeah.
And when we did around that time when we were doing market research and I would look at the shelf, there was nothing on there that appealed to me as a woman. You look at the shelf, it's really hyper masculine. You have bulls and monsters.
Yeah.
It's all very like in your face. Nothing feels that approachable except this like niche pink can that you sometimes see. It's not as mainstream. And that's when we were like, it makes sense to disrupt this space and create something that I want to see on shelf. And I'm so glad we did. That was definitely the right move because I don't think the market would have been ready at the time for a matcha latte. We've obviously evolved and over time that, we launched that. But in October of 2021, about a year after we incorporated, we came out with our flavored energy drinks.
Why had other matcha brands like failed at that in the UK? Had there been others or like, and they'd failed, right? I'm
so glad you asked this because we studied, like we were literally scholars in school studying the books as to why these brands failed. And what we realized was in their marketing materials, they never promoted the caffeinated aspect of the tea. They always spoke about the antioxidants and the other incredible health benefits that matcha provides. And it's funny because we've actually gone the complete opposite way. And we only really highlight the health benefits in terms of caffeine and the superior form of caffeine that matcha gives you. But the reason we did that was because it was driven by data. We know that over 70% of the UK self-reports feeling tired for more than half the day. And caffeine is the most widely consumed drug worldwide. Coffee has a total addressable market of like 500 billion, So when we thought about what made the most sense from an opportunity perspective, we looked at, okay, well, what is actually the most mainstream need? And it's not antioxidants. I mean, people want health benefits, of course, but people also want to feel energized and they want to feel energized without the downsides.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a pretty good sell. And that's how I felt from matcha. So we wanted to bottle that up, can it up and give it to people.
So what did you land on there? It's like people feel tired, sluggish.
Yeah.
And then you land on like healthy energy?
Healthy energy because, well, funny enough, we didn't actually land there in the beginning.
Okay. Get there, yeah.
We get there over time. And it's funny because when we first launched the can, it looked very different. And packaging for us is so important, especially if you're a drink company. I think it's especially important because most drinks brands, they usually they lean more heavily on the retail side for distribution as opposed to D2C. Of course, a lot of drinks brands have strong D2C presence, but if you think about the need state in which you'd be drinking something, it's usually when you're thirsty, you're out, you're tired, you're grabbing a meal deal. So it makes sense it's an impulse purchase. That's why for us, the packaging was so important. And when we first launched, we launched with a can the same size of 250 ml, and it had matcha in big, bold letters, vertically placed on the can in the front. And our logo was tiny, like you could barely see it. It was kind of funny now looking back. And actually, it's something that was picked up on later on. But we did that because we wanted it to be abundantly clear what it was. We soon realized that it probably wasn't the right approach. It was and it wasn't. I'll say why it was. It was because it got the attention of nationwide retailers like Holland Barrett.
Yeah.
Health food retailers that really wanted to embrace newer products that were health adjacent. They knew what matcha was, and they just felt excited by this innovation in the category. But it wasn't so great because the times in which consumers, like people that are actually going into the store and picking it up, had with matcha, they were all negative experiences. So they were trying fake matcha at cafes. It was basically just ground up green tea powder that tastes like dirt. Not a really great customer experience. And so it was quite polarizing.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, you put off some people. I remember we met with a founder early on who said, "What are you doing? You're leading with the input, not the output." And of course, you want to have a focus on ingredients, but you also want to understand what are you going to get away from your product in 2 seconds. When you have so little time to make a decision, you want your customer to know exactly what they're getting from your product. And that's when we eventually realized we're going to have to change the packaging so that we don't promote matcha as heavily on pack, but that we actually explain what consumers are going to get away from it.
Yeah.
So when we landed on healthy energy, I remember Steve actually said, this makes so much sense because when you put it on shelf next to anything else, it doesn't matter what it is. You think if that's healthy energy, surely everything else next to it is unhealthy.
Yeah.
Because you put it in direct contrast to your competition.
I think that would be the second big thing for someone who's listening, isn't it? Is to think, what are the outputs from my product, not the inputs? And then what's the mind state when they're at the point of purchase? They're feeling tired, they're feeling sluggish, they want energy.
Exactly.
And then on the shelf, what are they alongside? And if you position yourself as the healthy option, then the others you infer must be unhealthy. And a lot of the other competitors in this space, I imagine they don't actually say, they're all brand led, they're all name led, aren't they? They don't really make a big thing, I don't think, too many of them of the benefits.
Yeah, because there are none.
Yeah, and they're like brand built companies,
of course, and they're remarkable brands. Don't get me wrong. We admire the largest competitor that you can think of. Like, we really admire them. They have done such incredible work with their media side of the business. We want to build out a media arm like theirs with different focuses. Obviously, not extreme sports, but more fun and quirky things. There are so many things that you have to think of when you're starting a business. It really does start with the product, though. And I've said this so many times, but of course the packaging matters. Of course the positioning on shelf matters and thinking of the messaging on pack. But it doesn't really matter what's on the pack if what's in the pack isn't good.
Yeah.
If it doesn't taste good and if it doesn't deliver on the promise you're making, then it doesn't really matter because you're not going to generate repeat sales. Prime is a great example. Founded by Logan Paul and KSI, had millions and millions and millions behind it. I mean, and you also have two of the largest creators who are advocates and like actively promoting it across the country, across the world, really. They launch nationwide in every single retailer. For a minute, there's a craze. They're reselling on the black market for $15 a pop. Like, it's ridiculous. The kids are trading it in the schoolyard, but they get delisted from every single grocer because the repeat sales weren't there. Why? Because the taste wasn't great and because it didn't deliver on the promise to hydrate. it didn't make sense as a proposition. And it was really down to the fact that the product itself wasn't good enough. So if you don't have a product that stands up against the competition and it has to be 10 times better than what's already out there. And if it isn't, you're not going to get anywhere. It either has to be 10 times better or 10 times different.
Yeah, 100%. And these taste really good.
Thanks.
They do taste really good.
Well, we're always iterating on the product itself and trying to improve through consumer panels. We're investing heavily in our product development team, bringing in some incredible people, and I think you'll love the next versions of these.
Quick one, if you're enjoying this episode, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me keep giving you as much value as possible in future episodes and helps me book bigger and better guests every time. So if you're enjoying this content and getting lots of value, please subscribe, and let's get back into this week's episode. Let's go from that first product. So the latte is ditched. We're energy drink. We launched that at the coffee show. You then get your order from Holland Barrett. Is it at that point that you consider going on Dragon's Den?
We actually were reached out to by the producers of The Den the day that we launched our Kickstarter campaign.
Interesting.
So something that people might not realize, and if anyone's out there who wants to start a business and wants to test it, might as well throw it on Kickstarter, put a bit of spend into a creative video, and you might get the attention of the Dragon's Den producers. They are actively scouting brands on there.
Interesting.
Which we didn't know, of course, at the time. But Teddy got a call from the producer, not sure how they found his number, but he nearly fell out of his chair when he heard who it was.
Wow.
We had a conversation with the producer for about 15 minutes. Told him, look, we're just testing the idea. We don't even have the product. We'd love to come on when we have something to show and some sales. Fine. Maintained a relationship with them. And I think they left, but they put us in touch with the new producer. And this was a few months into launching, so probably early 2022. We reached back out. We said, we've just launched. We have a confirmed listing nationwide with Holland Barrett. We'd love to come on the show. Then we progressed into due diligence for several weeks, and then they kind of ghosted us. And we were like, what? We thought we got pretty far. We thought we were, they reached out to us initially, right? But we didn't hear anything. And we thought, okay, everything happens for a reason. We don't need to do it. We had just launched in Holland Barrett. Everything was going really well. And it was just a random Saturday. And they said, can you come to Manchester on Thursday? So we were like, this Thursday, 5 days from now? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, of course we can. And this was in June 2022.
Yeah.
That was stressful. I feel like I'm reliving it right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So 5 days to prepare. Usually you would have several weeks, if not months.
That's insane. Why is that? Is that how it happens normally? Or is just they had someone drop out, you think? Or yeah?
I think someone dropped out.
Yeah.
So very serendipitous. Like feel very lucky that happened. But we instantly went into planning mode. And it's funny because now I would be embarrassed to not know some of the things that we didn't know then. But when you're just starting out, you're so scrappy, you have no team, and you're just trying to sell, market, sell. You want to get it out there as much as possible. You're not necessarily so focused on the numbers, but we knew that they were going to grill us on the numbers. They were going to grill us on order quantity that Holland Barrett placed, that first purchase order. Cool. They were going to grill us on our monthly turnover, of course, our margins. And to be honest, Teddy and I really didn't know because we were just so in it.
Yeah.
And when
That's so interesting.
Yeah. When you're working in the business and it's just two people, because at the time it was just Teddy and I full time. Levi was still working a day job, which was very helpful because it funded the business.
Yeah.
But when you're just so in it, you have very little time to work on it. So you're really rarely lifting your head above the clouds to think
so
big
at that
picture.
point, when you're selling your product to Holland Barrett, do you know what your margins are or anything like that? Or you roughly know that it's somewhat profitable or? You know
what your margins are for that initial run. You have an idea of what your margins can get to with scale because you benefit from economies of scale as your volumes increase. And thus your margin improves. But we just knew that we we didn't even break even. We did make profit, which I'm really proud of, but we knew that over time it would be more profitable. I think in that case, we knew what it would be, but otherwise business-wide, we didn't really know because it's not just Holland Barrett we were selling to at the time. We were selling to other chains, wholesalers, independents. We were already working with Facebook, which is a great story of how we got listed there. But yeah, we didn't know anything. And then we spent 5 days essentially studying everything, memorizing somewhat of a script. Looking through the most successful Dragon's Den deals on YouTube and just studying every question that the dragons could possibly ask. Like we tried to anticipate everything. We didn't sleep. We didn't eat. It was really, imagine you're cramming for a midterm or a final at uni or something like that. That's what it felt like.
Did you know what you wanted? Like, did you want investment? Did you need investment? How important was this for you both?
The way that we thought about Dragon's Den was really as an advertising campaign. We knew that to have a segment on the Den would be equivalent to millions and millions of pounds in marketing. And we just wanted to make good TV.
Yeah.
I think if we went on now, we would have done it differently, but we wanted to be cheeky, but not too avant-garde. We wanted to push it, but not too much because, of course, we were still early and we didn't want to take such a big risk. Really, for us, the goal was to end with 5 yeses.
Wow.
Because I'll tell you why. There's another brand that went on a year or two before us and they got 5 yeses. And we knew how rare that was. And because it was so rare, they had so much buzz around their segment. And so much PR around the airing. And we just knew how good that could be for the brand.
Yeah.
The worst thing that could come of it is that they hated the drinks. They thought the business proposition sucked and they said no.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to do everything in our power to get them all as close to a yes as possible. And we're really lucky because that's what happened. And it was really surreal because we said that's obviously the goal. We have high standards and we have great aspirations, but it might not work out and we have to be okay with that.
And just talk to me a little bit about the pitch because I think there's so much curiosity online about this. Like what actually happens on Dragon's Den? Are you there for 5 minutes? Are you there for 2 hours? Is there like a pre-grilling? And then you also, I think it's quite iconic, your pitch, because you both come in in green. Yeah.
Teddy's wearing green sweatpants and I'm wearing a green vest under a blazer.
Yeah, even that was genius because it's like, it's such a pattern interrupt. You're like, who the hell are these two people wearing bright green?
Why are they in green? Yeah. What is this?
What is like, for people who are out there who are thinking, what is it actually like? Is it staged? Are the questions predetermined? Like what's the experience actually like? So you're actually not allowed to go on the show if you've ever had contact with the dragons before. Interesting.
So we had no communication with them ahead of time. We didn't speak to them, nothing. You speak to the producers who are lovely and you prepare a pitch that's around 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. And you do a few walkthroughs before. You can practice several times. Funny enough, because we only had 5 days to prepare, Teddy and I, the only time we ever nailed our pitch was when you saw it on air.
Wow.
Because every time we practice it, we fumbled. Even the 2 times that we did it in front of the producer as the practice, and we were freaking out because we were like, oh my gosh, we can't fumble because then that'll ruin the flow. It'll knock our confidence. So we're so lucky that the pressure was on and I guess we're good under pressure.
Yeah.
But you walk through, you do a few takes going up to the elevator. Elevator's not real. I think most people hopefully know that by now. But I was kind of surprised to learn that. And you're actually in there for a really long time. We were in there for about 1.5 hours.
Wow.
But they edit it so seamlessly. It's really beautifully edited that you wouldn't know. It doesn't feel as jumpy at all. It feels quite natural, actually. What you don't see is a lot of the very granular questions about the business. You're not given questions in advance. You are really not told anything. The only thing that was unusual about our pitch was that, you go into the fake elevator, the doors open, and as you can imagine, the dragons are all sitting there. And in this case, the year that we were on, it was still kind of COVID, and they had a 6-foot rule, or the 2-meter rule. And they were all so spread apart that when you were talking to Peter, you were facing, your back was facing Tuka. And it was really odd. You felt like almost rude. It was quite challenging to navigate that. Because then Teddy and I had to stand very close together. You're given spots on the floor to stand. And you walk, they say, don't start your pitch until you get to your spot. So you're trying to look at the dragons and exude confidence and smile and look happy. But then you're also trying not to overstep the spot on the floor. And it's just this tiny piece of yellow tape. So you make it there. You start the pitch. I am so emphatic about, I'm Marisa. And I'm kind of screaming at them, right? And I touch my chest where my mic was. And all of a sudden you hear, cut. And the producer comes out and I'm like, oh my God, what happened? And you're kind of rattled for a second. And they're like, you touched your mic. We're going to have to redo that whole thing. You go back to the elevator and Teddy and I were just laughing. So we're like, obviously this happens in the first 2 seconds. But I actually think it was quite good. And it's something that Steve said he reflected on, that we weren't shaken by it. We took it very much in stride because that's just what happens. It's life, right? It's never going to be perfect. After that, you're uninterrupted for about an hour and a half. And literally you forget the cameras are there because you're just so in flow. And it feels as though it's just a pitch to a potential group of investors. But you forget the cameras are there and it's just like a normal conversation. Obviously in front of 5 very intimidating dragons who you want to like you, you want to make a good impression, but it's just like any normal day.
And then you close the deal with Steven and Peter.
Yes.
And then what happens? Do you literally just walk off the set and you leave? And then
I think in non-COVID times, you actually wait to meet them, shake their hand, give them a hug. But because of the COVID restrictions that were still in place, we left. Yeah. I mean, it was a weird feeling leaving because you just have this monumentous thing happen and you can't tell anyone about it. What's funny is I said I was going to circle back to it when the dragons, so 2 things. When we did our pitch, you finish the pitch and you say, okay, if you could please open the baskets next to you. We have our drinks free to sample. They all open their baskets and Steven was the only one to not try it.
Wow.
He didn't try the drink for about 30 minutes.
Wow.
Which freaked us out. It freaked Teddy out more than it did me. I actually thought it was a good sign because I thought that it was clear from that he wanted to be the first dragon to question and also evaluate us in those moments where if the dragon's not looking, you can kind of, you can fall back, you can your posture can sink a little bit. But I think he wanted to kind of study us in a moment where we wouldn't necessarily be on guard. So I actually think that was kind of intentional from him, but he didn't try it for 30 minutes and then asked us, the first question was, how old are you guys? And I think he could see that we were quite young at the time. But I feel like I've aged 10 years since then. But Peter then made a comment later on about our packaging, actually. And that's what I was going to circle back to, that he thought our logo, he said, what's the name of your brand?
Oh, yeah.
Because I can't see your logo. And we had discussed that because we had seen in a previous episode that he questioned someone on it. But that was an intentional decision at the time. We had no brand equity. No one knew what PerfectTed was, what we stood for, who we were, what we did. So we were like, doesn't matter. We'll make it small. We want people to know what matcha is. Obviously, that whole thing shifted.
Yeah. And then the show comes out when?
9 months later.
9 months later.
9 months later. And
in that time, you signed the paperwork with them both?
We signed the deal with Steven. I think it was 10 minutes before our segment aired.
Really?
It was.
Wow.
The episode was actually live.
Wow.
But our segment wasn't on yet. That is how late
crazy.
We signed.
Wow.
Yeah. I think for about 8 months, we sent paperwork back and forth. And then it wasn't until about a month prior that we got on a call with Peter's head of investment and Steven's brother, actually, who looks after his investments, Jason. He's great. And it was at that point that we made the decision to not take the deal with Peter, because the reason why we wanted to work with Peter was because one, he's an iconic dragon. Of course, you want to deal with Peter, but we felt that the most value he would add was really in the distribution and the connections. With Steven, we knew that he's a branding genius and that he is, just his promotion alone and his advocacy is so meaningful. He has such a great audience. People really trust him. And we were also I think the age difference, we're close in age with Steve. It just felt like we were in more similar parts of our journeys. And I mean, now it's cool because we're a floor above him in his office, and we have a lot of fun, honestly. But it felt most aligned at the time, and we signed the deal with Steven then about 10 minutes before our segment aired.
If someone's listening to this, it's like the opportunity to unlock distribution and awareness through channels that already exist is huge. I mean, you'd done the early iteration of this on like Kickstarter, which is like you got 10,000 orders from it. Mm-hmm. Then you did the coffee show where you got your like industry orders. Mm-hmm. And then Dragon's Den, I guess, is this dual vehicle where like you can raise investment, but really the awareness is crazy. Because how many people watch that show?
About 7 million eyeballs on
7 million,
mm-hmm.
Wow. So what is the impact of 7 million eyeballs when the show comes out? Because what does that unlock for you?
Everyone tells you prepare in advance for the spike. So you think, okay, how big is this spike going to be, right? We never focused so much in the beginning on D2C. We were really more focused on pushing like physical channels, retail, places where people would find it naturally and pick it up. But we had a pretty good infrastructure on there, and we made sure well in advance to have enough stock. I think one thing that we did, which if anyone is going on Dragon's Den, I would encourage them to do, or if they've gone on and they're waiting for their episode to air, we approached some of the nation's largest retailers and we said, we can't say what, but we're going to be on a show that you've probably watched and it will have nationwide appeal. And we want to tell everyone where they can go try PerfectTed. We'd love for that to be you.
Yeah.
And that was a really good pitch.
That's genius, yeah.
And luckily at the time, buyers at some of our largest partners now were also women, and they recognized the need. They said, you know what, when I walk up to the shelf, I don't want to pick up anything, and this I would pick up. So we had great fortune that they identified with the need. And luckily, the same week that our Dragon's Den episode aired, we launched in Tesco nationwide in 1,200 stores.
Wow.
Which, looking back, I don't know if I would do that again because it put a lot of pressure on the system. I think if you ever want to test in resilience, that was probably it. I mean, we were literally at the warehouse packaging orders ourselves.
Wow.
And everything that went wrong could possibly have gone wrong. We had whisks that were custom made that we had ordered months and months in advance in a boat from Asia, stuck because of, I think, some issue with the Suez Canal or something crazy, like so out of our control, things that you just don't think about as a business owner. But especially if you're importing things from abroad, and sea freight is a disaster sometimes. They were stuck on a boat and we didn't know what to do. So we panicked. I said, okay, wait, we could go to IKEA. They're £1 to buy these as replacements. We can incorporate some quirky little note to the customer so that we fulfill on time, but say, hey, we've marked your order as partially fulfilled. This is a temporary whisk as a token of our apologies, and your whisk will be coming shortly in 2 to 3 weeks. We will keep you updated.
Wow.
We knew that the communication and the over communication with the customer at that time was going to be really important. We actually set our delivery time to I think 5 to 7 days because we just knew that expectation management is so important. I love the saying that happiness lives between expectation and reality.
Yeah.
And I think if you promise someone the world and you underdeliver, you're going to end up with some pretty pissed off customers.
Yeah.
But if you tell them, look, it's going to take a little while, but we're working on it and we love you. We thank you too for your support. They are happy to wait as long as you're honest and open up front. It's okay.
Just a quick thing, if you're enjoying this episode and getting lots of value, I've put a breakdown of all of Marisa's frameworks for brand building in my newsletter, and you can get a copy at the link in the description. Now, let's get back to the episode. So what's the impact of that when it comes out? Do you sell, like, how many do you sell on the website? I think, did Holland Barrett, did they have like their biggest spike ever on their website?
Holland Barrett, because we mentioned them in the episode when we were asked where we're stocked, they saw the largest traffic spike on their website that they've ever experienced, confirmed by their head of e-com. Love that stat. I think it was, I mean, we sold so much more than we had actually expected. I think we did, what was it, 400K that month. The month prior, we maybe did 40K.
Wow.
So it was a big jump.
10
and then
times,
the month we filmed our Dragon's Den episode, we did 9,000 pounds.
Wow.
And now our episode was filmed in June of 2022. This is now September of 2025. So a little over 3 years later, we're now doing over 4 million pounds a month. It's a big jump.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Like, how do
People
you feel
love
about
matcha.
that? How do you feel about that?
Really stoked because I love that people love matcha as much as I do. I love that people understand what it is and they see the beauty with it.
Yeah.
Nothing brings me more joy than knowing that people love matcha. I don't even care if it's, I'm not going to lie. I don't even care if it's our matcha. I just love that people love the product. I love that they also appreciate the cultural context in which it comes from in Japan, that they adopt the rituals around it. I just love that it's become ubiquitous.
Yeah. But that wasn't the case like 3 or 4 years ago in the UK, 5 years ago. No. So maybe let's come on to how do you build a iconic brand and take a market by storm. There's like so many layers to this, like educating the market, explaining to them what the hell matcha is, and then telling them the benefits and everything. But let's start with the can. Like, do you design this?
I did design that. It's always, we're actually making changes to it pretty frequently that probably you wouldn't notice, but that we obviously notice. But yes, designed it. Initially, we worked with a branding agency, but actually what I realized really early on was that the way that the brand shows up in the world, the look and the feel is so important. I personally love design. I'm a very visual person. I never knew how to do Adobe Illustrator or use any of these kind of Adobe tools, but I taught myself how to do everything. And it was actually one of the best skills that I have undertaken as a founder, because the time and the money that we've saved as a result of me now being a self-taught graphic designer has been incredibly valuable. I mean, I can't tell you enough. If anyone can learn how to do it, I would recommend it. It's also fun.
Yeah.
I find it quite therapeutic.
What's important here to you? Like, what do you think is important here? I mean, what I like we've already talked about, like, you're selling the benefits, healthy energy. It's got personality to it.
There's a lot I dislike, funny enough. And I'm someone that looks at I'm definitely someone who can come away from a podcast and I'm like, oh, I won't think about the good things I said. I'll think about the ways that I fumbled. So that's like my I'm working on it. Yeah. It's a mindset shift, but at least I'm honest, hey? But I will say the hierarchy is super important. So the logo, as well as healthy energy being like in the mid of pack. The one thing that isn't so great is that our flavor is at the bottom, and sometimes that can get cut off by what is called SRPs, or shelf-ready packaging. So sometimes you'll see cans in a crate of cardboard on shelf in a supermarket, and sometimes that can cut it off. So you have to be really intentional with your SRP design as well, so that it is very clear what the flavor is. But we're making some changes, so I'm excited about that.
What about the note from the founder? What I like is like, if I've got this, it educates me on the product. So I can see like it's got 80 mg matcha caffeine, immunity support, mental performance, reduced fatigue, and then a little note about you and your story. I struggled with jitters and crashes from coffee and sugary energy drinks. So I switched to matcha. I love the difference. So I created this energy drink as a way to feel more energized. Like this, I don't need to know your story or see an advert that tells me anything about you and the product. I can learn it all from this, and then maybe I can tell my friends about it. Did you do that by accident, or you?
So firstly, when you're a challenger brand and you're self-funded, because we didn't actually, we eventually raised £1 million from Steven.
Yeah.
But up until that point, we hadn't taken on any money for the business, other than our finance savings and Levi's salary. But when you have no money, you have to think of creative ways to get your brand out there. And we knew that if we could secure distribution and get it into people's hands, whether that's through buying it in a store or just sampling, they could read this. Because if they're opening it and they leave it on their desk or they carry it with them to the tube, maybe they're bored, maybe they twist it, and maybe they stumble upon my story and they can see, oh, actually, a person with a real need, she identified like a solution for this need. And oh, maybe I have ADHD. Maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but I'm so fortunate to receive so many messages from people now to say, hey, I have ADHD. I saw that you're the founder, read your message on the side of the can, really resonates with me. I have ADHD too, tried your drink. Can't tell you how much it's helped me. Thank you. And just that alone, that human to human connection is everything. I think when you think about brands, I don't like to think about brands as some esoteric being, like they're not a thing. I think of them as a person. Because people buy from people. They buy from stories. People respond emotionally to stories and they identify with them in other people's stories. So I felt like if we put that on the side of pack and someone, even if 1 out of 50 customers read it, I think they'll develop a deeper connection with the brand.
Yeah.
Because they now know me a little bit more.
And how do you feel about being the face of a brand? Like, what's that like as a burden? Is that something that is really cool, or is it like a burden sometimes?
I'm lucky
it feels
because
like a lot. Like you're on the side of a lot of cans.
I know we just did our largest production run and we're now producing every week. And I think it was like 1 million cans just in 1 week.
Yeah.
Which was like wild. I mean, I would never have been able to fathom that 3 years ago. But yeah, it's a lot of cans to be on the side of. But I'm actually so happy to be. I mean, we're intentionally building out the team around me to help push my personal brand a bit more as well. Because I'm really happy to be a face for women, to be a face for people with ADHD and anxiety who have self-doubt. I mean, my whole life I've been afflicted with self-doubt and feelings of I'm not good enough, not as much imposter syndrome, but just very self-critical. And despite that, I have managed alongside 2 incredible co-founders to create a successful brand and corral incredible people to join this mission and come on the journey. And honestly, we have a lot of fun doing it. Like, I wouldn't do this if it wasn't fun. I just feel like life is so short and you never know what can happen tomorrow. And so why waste your time being miserable sitting in a cubicle somewhere? That's how I felt when I was working in finance. I just didn't feel like I was doing anything meaningful. So not only to have fun with the people that I love, with a team that are dope and I genuinely enjoy the company of, but to also create a product that brings joy into people's lives, that helps people, allows them to meet their goals because they feel energized in the right way. That's such a privilege. Like I wake up every day now and I'm like, I'm so grateful to be able to do what I do. I think it's so cool. And even if it's, I can't, who knows? Ask me in a year from now, I'll tell you if it's a burden. I don't think it will be because I'm an open book anyways. I tell my story on my sleeve. I go deep. I go as deep as people will let me go, and I don't really care because I have so much confidence now in who I am and clarity as to who I am that I don't really care. Take me or leave me. I'm just a gal. I'm just a gal. I'm just a gal trying to do a lot of things, and I'm very nuanced as a person with like a whole lot of interests. But I think that's why I'm comfortable being the face, because I want other people to see me and think, if she can do this, and she's weird, she has ADHD, she's quirky, whatever, she has all these other things going on in her life. If she can do this, then I can do something really hard and thrive at it too.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I think, it's a massive lesson. If you're building a brand and you're building a product from zero and you've got so few assets, like one of the number one assets you've got is yourself and your story and Absolutely. That personal touch. And as you say, people buy from people and they want to support people. They love stories and they don't like soulless corporate big brands. And particularly if you're a challenger, like that is got to be one of your unfair advantages. And
by the way, that is one of the reasons why very early on, we made the decision that whenever we were going somewhere, and you can look in photos or videos or anything really, if I'm ever at an event, you will not see me at said event without a can in my hand. I go so far as to say, if I have to throw away my drink before entering a venue, I say this is an emotional support aid, or it's a prop that I need to use throughout a talk or something, because that is free marketing. You are, especially as a founder, if you don't believe in your brand, no one else will. How can you expect anyone else to? So I knew from the very beginning that we're the biggest assets. That's also why we wear green every day. That's why I bring samples with me everywhere. I'm a big bag girl. I'm a tote gal because I have to carry a lot of product with me wherever I go. I'm handing out cans. I'm handing out sachets. Take one. Like, no one else is going to do it if you're not willing to. And from the very beginning, we were always on the ground, going from door to door, pitching the product, getting no's left, right, and center. But it doesn't matter. Over time, it builds up and eventually it'll catch on. You asked a question earlier about how do you build it into something like this? And I think we've had really interesting tactics that other people who are starting up can think about that I've never really spoken about before. So this is a fun one. We very early on, about 3 months into launching the drinks, it must have been January of 2020, we identified several channels that we felt were really good use occasions for our drinks. One of them being the office, because when I thought about where I drank the most matcha, it was definitely in my cubicle in finance. Yeah. So we thought, okay, how do we get it into the biggest companies in London? And we can do London because we can actually go there, we can sample, we can activate it. So we set our sights on Facebook. Facebook at the time had just moved into their new headquarters in King's Cross. And we were like, perfect, it's massive. We can send loads of drinks. And we were like, okay, but how do we get listed? Because we don't know how to get in. We spoke to some industry folk and they said, oh, you're never going to get in. You have to go through a long, lengthy process getting listed with the catering manager and the distributor. So we thought, yeah, we're not going to do that. So we thought, how does a product actually get in to the selection? And surely if people who work at Facebook are requesting the product to the catering manager, maybe the catering manager will finally cave in and say, I should look into this product.
That's genius, yeah.
So
the side door. There's always a side door to the nightclub.
100%. We love the side door.
Ignore the big queue out the front. There's a side door.
Absolutely. So we found random people who worked at Facebook. We found them just on LinkedIn of all levels and just DM them on LinkedIn. Some didn't respond, but some did. And we said, hey, we're a new brand. We gave the spiel. We said, we'd love to send you some free cases of drinks. And now think about it. If you're just a working professional, and I'm not trying to, no shade at working professionals, that's great, but you're probably not used to having or being treated like an influencer. Yeah. So of course they're going to accept it. I think some of them are a bit skeptical, like, why are you sending me free product? But some of them graciously accepted. And then we'd send them the tracking information, followed up with them once we knew it was received. And we'd ask them, how'd you like it? And thankfully, a lot of them were like, this is brilliant. How can I get this?
That's awesome.
And we said, well, thanks so much. Actually, you could do us a favor if you've liked them. Could you actually ask your catering manager to stock them? No problem. They felt a degree of almost indebtedness towards us because we had gifted them something and it had a lot of value. So of course they requested it. And then a very well-timed email to the catering manager just so happened to coincide with a load of requests for this new product, PerfectTed, and a partnership was born.
Wow. That's genius. I love that.
It was a lot of fun. And then it was great because it was the perfect occasion. These people understood why they needed it. And then those people in Facebook were then the people going out to Holland and Barrett buying it on the high street. So it made so much sense in this like synergistic cycle of customers. They were getting in the office for free because Facebook is, they give free products out to the people. And then they were buying it in their free time or on the weekends, on their way home, on their way to work at Holland and Barrett. It was perfect.
That's amazing. Have you got any others like that?
Oh my gosh. Actually, this is another really funny story related to Holland and Barrett. If you are starting a brand, and even if it's not a brand, if you're a creator and you don't have a lot of budget, whatever it is, you just really have to think outside of the box.
Yeah.
And I actually believe that restraint breeds more creativity because you're forced to work with what you got. So we were in very tense negotiations with Holland and Barrett. And they wanted us to pay a 12,000 pound listing fee for our drinks. And we couldn't afford that. So we said, okay, in exchange for dropping the fee, we can give you celebrity promotion. And they were like, what? What do you mean? At the time, we weren't on the Den. We didn't know any celebrities and had no idea how we were actually going to come up with it. But we just thought we could make it work. We thought we could knock on doors and make it happen. And they said yes, actually. We went on Cameo and we paid as an individual, not even a business account because we were that cheap, because it's like 8 times more expensive if you're a business account. We went on Cameo and we got Carol Baskin from Tiger King, the Island Boys, and John Burkow, former Speaker of the House.
Wow, yeah.
To all deliver this message that we wrote, thanking or actually congratulating their friend Ted for getting his perfect products into Holland and Barrett. Edited the video seamlessly so it looked as though we were saying PerfectTed is now available in Holland and Barrett. And it just, these 3 banging pieces of content. We sent it to our buyer. They loved it. They were over the moon ecstatic. And we were just like, this is it. This is why you have to think creatively and problem solve. Like sometimes, you're going to get in trouble and you just have to ask for forgiveness after the fact. But 9 out of 10 times I feel like it's worth it. It works.
There's a lot here, like I feel around like the brand values. Do you have brand values? Like what are they? It feels like there's fun and there's like craziness and stuff like that in there. Is that fair or? It's
funny because we actually, at a baseline, we have like several base values that we believe everyone needs to have coming into the company. That is like kindness, respect, things that underpin just like a decent human being. I think when you think about the brand values, positivity, that's pretty much the main one. But we actually abide by a set of virtues because we believe virtues are what you behave and values are what you believe. And we believe in behaving and putting like thought to action as opposed to just like believing aimlessly in something. So our virtues are actually not at all about creativity or fun. I think that just is about the type of people that we attract because honestly, we work so hard that it has to be fun to make up for it. You know what I mean? It like, if it's not fun, then what's the point? But I feel like creativity does underpin everything that we do. And truthfully, it's more of this earned first mentality that we have. We barely spend a penny on digital marketing. Like we have barely invested in paid ads. Meta is, I'm not even that well versed in meta advertising as a result. So, and actually I think Kelly recently told me it's just changed, but we spend like less than 1% of our turnover on marketing.
Wow.
Because a lot of it is earned.
I'm excited to share that this episode is brought to you by a sponsor, which is my business, 7X Content. We're a full service podcast agency. So if you want to start a podcast for your brand, or you want to take your existing one to the next level, then you can check us out at 7xcontent.com. We'd love to hear from you. Now let's get back to the show. Talk to me about, like, I see you in Joe and the Juice. I think I see you in Marks and Spencer. It seems like almost that is the marketing. Obviously you're in the supermarkets, but like in terms of educating the market and getting your product in front of as many people as possible, not using paid ads or billboard advertising or anything like that. What's your approach there? Because that seems like super smart. If you can partner with those companies, again, who have got this distribution and use them to educate a market on your product. So when we pivoted eventually to canned drinks over the latte, we always thought, okay, we'll do the latte again one day, but we had this incredible raw ingredient in our matcha powder. Ceremonial grade, of course, the purest quality, absolutely delicious, naturally sweet, obviously no additives or preservatives. And we knew that we wanted to sell it to cafes as well. We just felt that if we can't deliver a latte in the format that we were intending on, we could at least partner with cafe chains to do it. And actually, where do people go to get their caffeine fix? A coffee shop, right? Where are they going in the morning to grab their pre-work caffeine kick? So we were reached out to actually by Joe and the Juice. They sent out, I think, a tender to a bunch of matcha companies. And we knew how critical it was to land that account. And we were kind of like, whoa, I can't believe Joe and the Juice even know we exist. But we were like, we must make sure that we win this. So how do we do this? And around the time, we were thinking about different ways of pitching the buyers. And firstly, we looked at the procurement manager's signature. We kind of found them on LinkedIn. We did a bunch of other like Google sleuthing almost to like a creepy extent and found where they lived, and also found that they liked cats and this whole thing. And we were like, can we do something around their house with a cat and matcha? And then we were like, honestly, that's so freaking creepy. We can't do that. Yeah. So instead, what we did was we wanted them to see PerfectTed everywhere. In the weeks coming up to the decision that they had to make, we wanted them to think of us subliminally. Like, how would we be front of mind as the best contender? So what we did was I went on Photoshop and I mocked up an image of PerfectTed with the PerfectTed logo in a Joe and the Juice cup, with the circle that was edited slightly so we didn't get in trouble with copywriting or whatever. And it had some cute slogan about being the perfect matcha. And then it had our logo very large. So we basically printed this out into like every billboard size poster as possible. And we identified the 4 major tube routes that led into their head office. And literally just mapped it out on Google Maps and plastered this picture everywhere. Like I have such great photos at the time that we took. And it was so fun. And we were like, okay, hopefully this works. So by the time that they made the decision, the procurement manager was like, I've been seeing you guys everywhere. We were like, oh, I wonder why. Crazy. So it's just things like that, thinking a bit more creatively about how you can really disrupt someone's day. And what kind of results do you get from those listings? It's incredible because it drives this trial engine. So by working with their in-house teams, by sharing the best practices for matcha preparation, for recipes. I mean, we help them on recipe development. We co-developed the Blank Street's infamous, or their famous blueberry matcha latte with their team because we wanted to create delicious recipes that customers would come back for time and time again. And we knew that that was so important to nail because it gets people accustomed to the flavor profile of matcha, which is different for Western palates. It's different than black tea. It's different than coffee, of course. So we knew that by doing that over and over again, it would drive this engine. And then ultimately, that's what led us to
finally, after 3 years, launch our matcha latte ready-to-drink cans in vanilla and strawberry flavors. The other really incredible thing about partnering with this many cafes is that we get access to, or not all of them, but a lot of them share their sales data with us, and we're able to see the top performing flavors.
Wow.
So then it actually, we have proprietary data showing that flavors perform better than original. So then this obviously informed our decision to go with a flavored matcha latte as opposed to just a regular one, even though I think we'll definitely launch a regular in the future. But it's just incredible from a data perspective as well as a sampling perspective, and having another touch point with our customer. Because a customer goes into the store, they decide they love matcha now. They not only want to make it at home, so they buy our powders at Tesco, but then they're also like, but I love the way it makes me feel, so I'm going to pick up one of their cans as well. So it just it brings them in. It's just a great way to
get them into
reduce the barrier. Exactly.
Yeah, it's genius.
Thank you. I don't know if it's genius or if it's just we got scrappy and pursued every opportunity that we could possibly get.
It's a real good case study. I think I saw Steven do a post on that, and it really it struck me as super smart, because obviously you want to make margin on that kind of thing, but in a way it's as you say, it's like your free marketing. It's someone promoting in every store in the country your product and giving them a route to taste it and trial it, and then hopefully, as you say, if the product's good enough, they'll then become a customer in store, in the supermarket, and the rest of it. One of the really interesting things in building a brand is like association. And so Joe and the Juice feels like a good association. Steven feels like a good association. But then there are some other associations that are like maybe more unexpected. Like I think you're in some other supermarket cafes, maybe you're in M&S. How do you think about like balancing the opportunity of those versus the brand association? And like, how do you think about that?
So we've said no to potential retailers who have been wanting to list us for quite a while due to the negative perception tied to the brand, like what it would mean if we were to go into said retailer. So we actually, everything that we've done to date is really intentional. And I love our supermarket cafe partnerships because they're almost unexpected that they surprise and delight our customers.
Yeah.
They're like, I wasn't expecting to find PerfectTed here, but oh my gosh, thank God it's delicious. And it actually causes this moment for virality because there's confusion. It's like, this doesn't really make sense, but I love it. It's kind of like when you see, I don't know, when McDonald's for the first time partnered with Cactus Jack, Travis Scott's brand, and you're like, that's really unexpected. But because it's unexpected, it disrupts and it makes people pay attention. Yeah. So for us, it's been absolutely brilliant. And it's so great because it drives not only trial in their cafes and this kind of viral moment, but it also then helps our retail sales, because then people are like, well, I want to remake this at home. Oh, great. You can go down to the tea aisle in M&S and buy our pouch. Or you could do the same thing at Waitrose. You could do the same thing at Tesco. So it's been really helpful because you have this ability to cross-promote.
What do you get? Do you get people making TikToks or? Yeah.
But it's funny because we didn't seed any of it. We realized what was happening. And so we tried to add fuel to the fire, but it was already taking off. So for instance, I think it was when M&S launched their white chocolate matcha, and people were going absolutely nuts over it. But then, or maybe actually it was when our blueberry pouch launched in Tesco, people were going crazy on TikTok because the blueberry matcha was very viral from Blank Street, and everyone was like, this is how you can make it at home now. And it was happening just without us doing anything. Great. And that's really where I think a great product makes a difference. And where NPD, that is, okay. So I actually think the best NPD comes from solutions that your customers are already doing. So we knew that our customers were going and buying our organic, regular ceremonial grade powder and buying blueberry syrup and milk. Yeah. We knew they were doing this. So we just thought, why don't we just make a one-stop shop product for them? All they need is a little bit of milk and that's it. And that's where I think if your customers are already doing it, that's probably what you should be offering. The same with the sticks. We had customers that were like, I've been individually portioning my matcha into little Ziploc baggies to take on vacation. We're like, that's ridiculous, but like, we should just solve that for you.
Yeah.
So I think if you're looking to expand a range, look to what your customers are already doing with your products.
Yeah. It's just like, they've solved more problems for them.
Exactly. Because they'll tell you. And if you're listening, your customers will tell you. They're very vocal. And it's quite helpful that we have my mother-in-law is our head of customer excellence. And she's in the office as much as she possibly can be. She has 4 children. So she travels a lot. They all live in different countries. She's incredible. And she's in the office as frequently as possible, communicating daily with the entire team. And we're getting instant feedback from inquiries, complaints, requests that are coming in every single day. Not just that, but feed that with TikTok and Instagram and all forms of social media. You have so much gold just sitting in your inbox. Read it. Yeah,
you really made me think as well, just there, like one of the principles, I think it's one of like Seth Godin's principles, like the purple cow. And Steven talks about it. I think he calls it something else, absurdity. It's really interesting. What's it been like working with him? You obviously chose him for the marketing prowess. Like what's the good stuff he's given you and what's the advice that you've ignored? Can you go into that a little bit?
Absolutely. Steven's been such an incredible partner for us, and we obviously respect him so much as a business person, but really as a friend that we can confide in about the troubles and tribulations of running a business. He gets it from a personal level as well. So it's been really nice having someone who's amassed the level of success he's had. Obviously, we have the office, which he has graciously, given us a floor in his headquarters. Obviously, we pay for it, but still, it's there for us, and it's beautiful and green. And it's lovely being around his team. They're just such a kick-ass team and very aligned culturally. But we have obviously ignored a lot of his advice, and I think it's down to a few reasons, and I'll go into what that advice is. But I want to first say that no one knows your brand better than you do, especially if you're a founding member of the team, if you're on the team, if you live and breathe it every single day. Someone, I don't care how big they are, I don't care if it's Steven Bartlett, they're not going to know your brand and your customers as well as you do. So trust your gut. If you have built something and it's just getting off the ground, and you have a really good gut feel about it, lean into your intuition because it'll usually be right. But I will say with that, there are so many examples, but one that comes to mind from pretty early on, Steven said, you have to have an enemy. You have to position yourself against something. I don't care what PerfectTed is for. What is PerfectTed against? Yeah. And obviously, we knew where he was going with that. But as a brand, we've made the really intentional decision to always focus on the positives because we're a brand that is all about spreading positive energy. So we've been intentional not to bring in language that is inflammatory, negative, anything that can be denoted as a negative, we will lean away from. So we thought if the product is strong enough to stand on its own without disparaging others, why would we do that? And we believe so wholeheartedly in the strength of the product. It's not necessary to try to take down others. Yeah. And actually, mad respect to them. As I said to you before, I admire these brands in our category because they've done phenomenal jobs. I mean, they're household names. Their penetration is insane. So we want to get to that stage. And I love what they've done. Obviously, I don't love their products, but I think the way that they've built their businesses are absolutely remarkable. So there's no need. If your brand is strong enough on its own, you don't need to take down others. That's our opinion, and we've stood by that. And I think he's now come around to see why.
What's it like negotiating with him? Because didn't you negotiate like a second deal with him?
He's a businessman, like it can be intimidating negotiating any sort of deal, whether it's with an investor, whether it's with a future co-founder, even if you're bringing someone on later stage. It's really nerve-wracking, and you want to stand on your ground, but you're at the table because you both want something, right? You want something out of the other party. So you know that. But even though you know that, you always are second guessing yourself because what if they walk away? What if I offend them? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I do something wrong that I cannot come back from, that's unrecoverable? So obviously, it's incredibly nerve-wracking. I mean, I think I lost more hair in the year that we were negotiating a deal than I've ever lost in my life because it's just so freaking stressful. But at the end of the day, we learned so much from the negotiation process. I think ultimately we shook out at a deal that we were both really happy with and ended with a huge amount of respect for one another. And I actually think, or at least I hope, and I think he has said to date now that the way that we stood our ground so wholeheartedly in kind of like defense of our position made him believe more in the business because we were so adamant about keeping as much of it as possible. So I think it actually made him respect us a bit more as business people. I always say people want what they can't get, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, in the VC world, the best time to raise money is when you don't need it.
Yeah.
Because that means you're actually good on your own. You don't need the cash. You are not in a position of weakness. You have leverage in that situation. So, and I also think sometimes if you say no, it makes them want you a bit more. Think about it in dating. Yeah. If you're rejected by someone, it's like a game.
Yeah.
you pursue them harder.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes you can be strategic about it and not just give in because of the status of the person or what they can offer.
Have you heard Jimmy Carr, like his response whenever he gets sent a contract?
No, what is it?
His first response is he doesn't open the contract or the offer. He just replies, if I'm being honest, I'm a little bit disappointed.
I love that.
Regards, Jimmy. And sends it back.
That's freaking amazing. That's hilarious. Because I think that shows a level of confidence in himself. Like he knows what value he's bringing to the table. And I think if you think about our business, it can go to the moon.
Yeah.
I really believe that because matcha is still in its kind of nascent phase in the Western market. And we are at the forefront of leading that movement. And I feel so strongly that we're building a household brand, something that really can become a unicorn one day. I do really firmly believe that. I wouldn't be here saying that if I didn't.
No, I see it.
I love that you see that because matcha, we're not trying to take over coffee, but we want to be the second greatest caffeine routine in the world.
So how much does Steven have of the business?
A decent amount.
Decent amount.
Yeah.
And then there's three co-founders, right?
Yes.
So the other co-founders are your husband and your brother-in-law.
Yes, Teddy and Levi.
So what is that like being family in a business?
It is amazing. When we met and the three of us had this relationship in college, obviously not romantic. I mean, friendship and romantic separately. Although at times it did feel like, did you ever see It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
I've not seen it, but yeah, okay.
It was kind of like that mixed with Friends because we lived together for 4 years. So it can be really fun. It can also be very stressful. We now live in the same building, which is pretty hilarious because Teddy doesn't like to be too far from us. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I trust them ultimately with my life, with my business, with everything. And we have, a great amount of respect for each other. I love it.
I think it's super cool. I was talking to a friend of mine, Jody, recently, and she runs her business with her husband.
You love.
And it's something I'm thinking about. It's like with my wife, like, I think it's so cool if you can build a business with your friends and your family. I'm obviously not in it, so I don't know if it's a bad idea or not. But I think it is quite interesting. It is very interesting. Maybe something people should think about.
I'm a huge proponent of it because if I didn't do this with Levi, my husband, I'd never see him. And to have a shared passion is such a beautiful thing. People always ask, oh, is it all you talk about? Thankfully, because we started the business 5 years into our relationship, we have such a strong base that we have so many shared experiences to come back to. But I don't think of it as a negative. I actually think of it as such an advantage because I know him so well. He knows me so well. There's ultimate trust. I can literally just call him out and be like, you're being a dickhead, and not have to fear for like the repercussion of calling someone a dickhead in my business, right? So I'd never say that to our team, but you know, it's a level of closeness and transparency you couldn't get with someone that's not family or you're romantically involved with.
Yeah. And like it's founder energy, I assume as well. Like you're probably thinking about this business 24/7, so you can work on it together 24/7.
And we love it. Like that is it. Like we are so genuinely, and I think this is why we work so well with Steven, because we are obsessed and we are relentless. Like ask anyone, my typical day looks like I am in the office all day until the very late, very, very late. And then we live 2 minutes away from our office because we want to optimize for being as close as possible, because all of our time and energy goes into building this thing that we honestly love. And I pinch myself that I get high on my own supply every day. It's my obsession in life. I pinch myself that I get to do it. And with the people I love. It's sick.
That's amazing. Because my next question was like, what is a typical week like? Monday to Sunday? What do you do every day? Like, do you have a daily routine? Are you working every day? Like, what are you focused on? Are you just promoting the hell out of the business and someone else takes care of the operations? Like, what's a week in the life?
I love that you asked Monday to Sunday because literally no days off. So thanks for keeping it real. Every week is different, but the way that we kind of look at the business is we split it into 3. I look more at brand marketing. Levi looks more over ops and biz ops. Teddy on the sales side, and also manufacturing. This has always been the way that we've divided things, which has been great. But that said, I'm also leading the AI and automation charge for the business. So that's a project I'm very excited about. We've just hired a head of AI, and we have a lot of automation projects to help us automate order processing and a lot of like admin heavy tasks that we just feel humans don't need to be involved in. We'd rather have our team do higher urgency, higher, requiring more brain kind of thought and activity. So that's cool. I am very in the business, although I try to have perspective more frequently than I used to, I guess. I mean, because the team is larger, I definitely can be elevated, but I'm so obsessed with the details. Like every little thing matters to me. I know that sounds a little crazy, but I think if you're not obsessed with the details, how can you end up with something that, if you accumulate all of those little details into one thing, they would eventually become something amazing. And that's what I think something amazing is comprised of. It's all just incredible small details. So I'm really obsessed with the very small things that you might not see, that other people might not even think about, but that I know will have a difference in how people feel. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. Anytime, does not matter who they are. They could literally be there for 5 seconds, but anytime someone steps foot into our office, you are not leaving our office without a goodie bag. Without a green goodie bag that has PerfectTed on the side big, and you are walking around London and promoting it. But also, we want you to feel special in that moment. And it's all about, how do you make someone feel? Yeah. Do you make them feel seen, part of a community? Do you make them feel valued? Like, oh my gosh, why me? Do you make them feel special? I want everyone who interacts with our brand to feel special and to feel like the best version of themselves. Because I feel like I'm always the person that's seen the good in others. And I want people to feel that way when they interact with the brand. And that's why, honestly, the brand is kind of like an extension of me, Levi, Teddy. The two of them embody the same values as me. We just want people to like be happy and have fun, because that's like what life is all about. Like, we're literally on a pebble of a revolving planet. Like, might as well make the most of it while we're here, man.
So cool. What's the biggest mistake you've made in all this, or biggest lesson?
Well, firstly, I try not to think of anything as so much of a mistake, but just a learning opportunity. Because I think if it's a mistake, you can like be kind of hard on yourself. Yeah. We've had so many fuck ups. I mean, from ordering hundreds and hundreds of thousands of sticks from like a semi-confirmed launch that we then had to figure out a way to sell them elsewhere, and spending loads of money, to having import paperwork incorrect and then having to spend millions on shipping back stock to a different country. We've had the whole gamut go wrong, and every day it feels like you're dealing with a new problem when you're running a business. But I think the biggest would be around people and not hiring or firing fast enough. I think a lot of business owners will say that, but we've really tried to keep it as lean as possible, but sometimes it can become too lean to the point where the team feels really under-resourced, and we never want to burn anyone out. And we always will try to identify where there is potential for that. And now we're quite proactive, but it's all learning in the early days, of course. But I would definitely say people is where you have the biggest problems as you grow.
What's the one thing I should have asked you about? Or you feel like you want to say, but doesn't get said?
I want to say that not everyone should start a business. It's funny. Today I was asked, you asked about a typical day in my life. I mean, some days are so different. And before this, I was at a really incredible festival. And after this, I'm going to an awesome female founders dinner, which I'm super pumped for. But one of the questions that was asked while I was in this panel was, I want to give advice to my niece about becoming an entrepreneur. What should I tell her? And I didn't have time to say it, and I wish I did. So if you're listening to this is what I would tell her, is that not everyone actually should be an entrepreneur. It isn't for everyone. In fact, I have loads of friends who just want to have, just a normal day job. And it's great because they're able to totally disengage and really have very separate lives. If work-life balance matters to you, I don't think entrepreneurship is a route that you should consider. And I know that might be controversial, but I don't really care, because the truth is you're in for a really rude awakening if you sign up to become an entrepreneur and you expect something else than that. If you're an entrepreneur, you're on at all times. It doesn't matter if you just had surgery, if you're on vacation, those emails aren't stopping. And ultimately, as a founder, it starts and stops with you. Just be realistic about what you're getting yourself into. I'd say that, plus love the quote that you don't need to be great to get started. You just have to get started to be great. And often I meet so many people who are kind of twiddling their thumbs and they want to be entrepreneurs and they have great ideas, but they're apprehensive. They don't know. They don't feel ready. You're never going to be ready. I would be embarrassed if I came in here and brought you our initial product that we launched with in October of 2021. It wasn't good. It was thick. The taste was off. Looking back, it really wasn't great, but hey, it was at least a starting point that we were able to collect feedback on and iterate from there. So just start. I know it's really cliche, but I feel that people sometimes need to hear that repeatedly until they feel pushed.
Do you get paid? Are you making money now, or are you making more money now than you did in your corporate job?
So great question. No, I'm not making more money now. I actually only started taking a salary this year, which is exciting for me. But we did so because, we never wanted to feel like a burden on the business. Now it's pretty much in line with the average, I would say, of compensation across the team. But no, not making as much as I did in finance. They pay nice, especially in America. But that's not really what it's about for me. I want to create something of value. That's why we give, equity to every employee in our business, because we want them to benefit from the immense success that we hope this brand is. And we want them to think like owners. And how can you expect anyone to think like an owner if they're not actually an owner? So it's very important to us, our EMI scheme.
This has been insanely valuable. I think we've done step to step how to start a brand and make it blow up.
Just be different and be freaking bold. I think stop being so timid. I used to care a lot about what people think. I think you can't care what anyone thinks. You just have to go with what you feel is right and hope for the best. That's literally what it is. It's like throwing shit at the wall, seeing what sticks, and trying to make intelligent decisions along the way.
Is there also a thing here? I think one of the things that just stands out talking to you is the ambition, and also the nightclub, right? So there is a way to build a brand, which is you go to the farmer's market with your little can and you hope to sell 10 or 20. every Saturday, and then try and knock at the door at Sainsbury's and Tesco and get listed or whatever. And then there are like these side doors, right? So there's the Facebook order side door. There's the Dragon's Den exposure to 7 million side door. There's the partnering with Steven. There's like the Joe and the Juice. There are all these like ways where if you're a little bit innovative, a little bit creative, and you also just shoot for the stars, like you can actually crush it. And it's probably not that much difference in building any business, right?
No, not at all.
Someone working in a coffee shop or running a little coffee shop, it's probably just as stressful and intense. Working 7 days a week as it is like trying to build a global iconic brand.
Absolutely. But I think
you've got to have the ambition though.
Well, what I'll come back to always, and something I have not said, but I guess I'll end on, is clarity is the single-handed most important thing that you have to have as a founder. Because I will get asked all the time about other people's businesses. And I feel privileged to be in that position now. But the first thing I ask him is, well, what do you want out of it? What do you want to grow? What do you want to build? Because is it a lifestyle business? Is it something that you wanted to, make income from? It has to be profitable in that case. Design your life for what you want it to look like in 5 to 10 years from now. And it's challenging. You have to, that's why I guess founders are visionaries, right? Because you have to see into the future to some respect, but have clarity. And we've had so much clarity from the very beginning. I remember when Steven asked us, what's your vision for this brand? And my response, no hesitation, was world domination. And that has not changed. We're in 50 countries to date. We're in over 30,000 doors. That's growing by the day. I'm going to Australia next month to launch nationwide in close to 1,000 stores. Like that was always the ambition. We didn't think we'd get there this quickly, but that was always the ambition because we wanted to build something just absolutely legendary and epic. And you mentioned the farmers market. A lot of food and beverage brands do start there to validate the concept. We took a different route. We thought, what's a little bit faster than that to validate the concept? Okay, Kickstarter, great. I think if you're going to go for it and you want to build something big, that's what your clarity has set you on. Go big or go home, right? Just like go big and fail big and then learn again, right? Like at least you've put everything into it. You never want to look back on your life and think, what if? I'd rather look back and say, oh, well, at least I tried,
That's amazing.
And also at least it was freaking epic at the time. Like at least we had fun doing it too. So clarity is the ultimate thing. I can't help anyone unless they know what they want. Because if you have no clarity of vision, then no one else can get on board and have the same and join you on that journey. Because where are you going? Where are you going?
That's a beautiful place to wrap it. I absolutely love this, Marisa. It's so much fun.
You're so fun.
Your energy is insane as well.
It's all this.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd love to hear the most valuable thing you learned in the comments. I read everyone and it just really helps me improve the episodes and make sure I'm pulling out the right kind of insights and lessons for you guys. So let me know what you got from the episode and what you'd like to see more of, and equally what you'd like to see less of. And I'll do my best to nail it for you in the next episode. Appreciate you listening and see you in the next one.